Thank you, Deputy Speaker, and I'm pleased to rise today on the Revocation and Reservations Bill 2023, being that it actually does affect my electorate, Deputy Speaker, and it's been an interesting contribution today. We had a beautiful history lesson from the member of Pascoe Vale. We've had a fishing lesson for the member of Gippsland East. The member for Tarneet finally figured out there was something in my electorate today, which I was very proud of, and the member for Shepparton. But the member for Mordialloc is probably the one that actually stayed closest to the bill today, and I congratulate him on that. I also congratulate the Shadow Minister who gave us absolute inspiring 27 minutes on this bill today, and that would have been a challenge. So the member for Brighton did an absolutely fantastic job. Inspiring it was. I was riveted to my screen, Deputy Speaker. I could not tear myself away. But we do not oppose this bill. We do not oppose this bill because this bill is common sense. And I do appreciate the staff sending me through the actual maps of Walhalla, Speaker, and these aren't props, but I can tell you there's about 36 different titles, if I'm correct, or somewhere around that figure, in Walhalla that have to be readjusted or sold off or whatever they need to be done. And obviously in this process we do have to consult with the Gunai-Kurnai people, which I'm sure they will. That will be a pretty I would say cordial, or everyone will get along. It will be fine. But this bill does, it does fix some things from. I can tell you some of the titles in Walhalla, Deputy Speaker, are back in 1889. These titles were put in place, so it would be good. It would be good to. Gold Rush time, and the town of Walhalla, and I don't know, I hope people in this chamber go down to Walhalla because it is a beautiful part of Victoria, and I've talked about Walhalla many times in this chamber, and there's a reason for that, because it is one of the best places in Victoria. Well, if we had a train line from where? But speaking about the steam train, I'm glad the Minister brought that up. I actually took the Shadow Minister for Tourism down there last week, Acting Speaker, and the big man, me and him, went on the train from Thompsons Creek into Walhalla. Well, it wasn't the train, it was one of the maintenance carriages, and I will say the big man struggled to get in the carriage. He struggled to get in. He's a big lad, and it's quite if you ever catch the train, it's quite a steep incline out of Walhalla. I think it's about 17 degrees, and I think with me and the Shadow Minister in this little maintenance carriage might have been a bit too much for the incline. I'll blame the Shadow Minister because one of the fellows had to get out and push it up the hill. So I think the Shadow Minister or myself need to do a bit of weight loss. But it's a great part of the town, and Walhalla's an interesting place. I don't know if many people know this, but in 1907, actually Walhalla Cricket Club started in 1882. 1882, and in 1907, I know the member for Gippsland East will love this, they had a cricket match at Walhalla. The cricket match was between Walhalla and the MCC. How about that? How long would it have taken the MCC to get to Walhalla back in those days? And unfortunately, the MCC, they declared for 7 for 233, and the Walhalla team only made 133 runs, Acting Deputy Speaker, and apparently they had a rematch in 2007, but I couldn't get the scores on that one. I'm tipping the MCC probably won again. But it takes you half an hour to walk up the hill in Walhalla to get to that cricket ground. Oh no, have you ever played there, member for Gippsland East? No, you're a cricketer, I thought you would have. But no, this is a common sense bill, and we don't oppose it. And I also have a Mechanics Institute in Narrabeen that, if I just read my notes here, the trustees, I think they're the only trustees that aren't deceased, and they don't have a problem with this being being in this bill either. So it's a well-supported bill, and it's been a pretty, as I said, it's been a pretty wide-ranging debate today. But this actually comes at a perfect time for Walhalla, Deputy Speaker, because Walhalla, as I mentioned the other week, has been put up by UNESCO for heritage listing. So this will tidy up those titles around there, and hopefully the people that owns properties there, if it's adjacent to their title, they'll pick them up. And obviously I think there's titles around roads as well. So this will go a long way tidying all this up. So if Walhalla does get recognised for World Heritage listing, it will be a lot easier to do other works there into the future to improve their tourism and their economy. And hopefully one day this government will listen to me and put sewerage on in Walhalla, Deputy Speaker, because that's very, very important. The other thing I think we need to start looking at is, or the government needs to start looking at, is the correlation between Decca-owned sporting grounds and local councils. Because this causes me no end of grief in my community, because unfortunately in these situations, Deputy Speaker, it gives both authorities a bit of an out. So I'll give you the case of, I'm going to reference the Bunyip Football Club, which is a Decca-owned ground, and then there's a ground out the back and that's owned by someone else. But I've been trying to get this ground resurfaced, because in winter you are 8 inches deep in mud. And the argument I keep getting from council and Decca is, well, council don't want to do anything because they don't own the facility. And a lot of councils don't want to own the facilities because then the burden is on them. And Decca don't want to do anything because they don't want to invest in it, because for whatever reason, I'm not quite sure. And I have been trying to get a meeting with Decca on this particular issue, because we need to get a correlation between these two parties to get improvements to these reservations that are Decca owned. And I know the Bunyip Football Club has been advocating for a long time now to get resurfacing done, but it's not the only one in my electorate where I have this problem. I have quite a few grounds that are Decca reserved and councils put the buildings on them, and councils sometimes are reluctant to put the buildings on them because they don't own the land. So I'd love to see the government get together with local councils and sort out this issue, because it is becoming an issue in my electorate. Because the Bunyip ground, for example, they had an AFL, a women's football team, but unfortunately because of the facilities in such a poor state, they moved on to better facilities. And we all know AFLWs are very, very popular at the moment. I was at their awards the other night actually, and good on the Richmond girl Conti for winning the best and fairest. It was a good win for Richmond this year. I was there with her.
Order.
Well, there. I was at the awards. It was a great night. So I think my contribution's about wound up, but I just would like to say to the department, please consider the correlation we have between these reserves, the Decca reserves and council, so we can get that sorted out. So maybe I can get someone to take responsibility to upgrade those facilities. Thank you, and I'll leave it there.